Alright, hello. My name is Ethan. I am currently working on developing a new trading card game. Um, I have a little description here, I'll just read through. The game exists on a ruthless tactical hell of a 4x4 grid battlefield in a punk sci-fi/fantasy setting. The goal of the game is to advance your units towards the enemy and wreak heavenly destruction upon them. The arena cards accompany the units on their venture, increasing their strength and laying traps for outsiders. When in dire need, events can save the cause in an instant. To traverse through the game, everything comes at a price and must be attained through various resources. So this little description that I have goes over the four main card types. Also, I should get rid of this artwork because it's not mine. I actually don't know whose it is. You know, let me find whose it is real quick. All right. So I think I found who made it. I think it's this guy. I think this guy made it. Um, the only other source I could find the image was here. This is on r/Gwent. This guy has the hashtag after translating of Gwent, so I think he made a fan art for Gwent. And then this person wanted it to be a card. So I'm pretty sure this is the guy who made the artwork. I did not make the artwork. Yeah. Anyways. These are the four kind of main cards that I have. And one of the main things that you'll notice, or that I use to differentiate my game from others, is this little grid space here. This is very important. This is kind of the thing that sets my game apart from other games. Is that, and I'll go over to the second slide here, is that the game exists on a board. You start by placing your units in your base. Eventually you move them up to the enemy base, attack with them, deal damage to the enemy base. You can attack other like enemy units directly. You can put special cards in your sidelines. That'll go for your arenas. Also, I'm doing a horrible job at explaining everything because I don't really know how to present this. As well as resource cards. These are similar to, if you know Magic the Gathering, think the land system. Similar to that, I do have some like major differences that I want to put in, as well as to have some special types that, as far as I know, don't really exist in Magic. Um, yeah, this whole oh yeah, let's start with the four cards. Unit cards, again, go they start in your base, you move them forwards, you battle with them, right? They're your fighting force. Um, the what's up next? The events, these are your kind of just like one-off, something happens. So you could have an event that's like deal damage to an enemy unit, maybe you draw some cards, things like that, of that nature. It happens once and it's done. Arena cards is next up. Arenas go on the sidelines, so that's where you can only have up to four of them. So for your deck building process, it's very important to kind of pick, I guess, specific ones for your playstyle. You don't want to just have a deck of just like only arena cards. They're meant to be a supplement to your units. However, the thing with arena cards is that if you know, like Planeswalkers in Magic is the best example I can think of. They have their own kind of like counter system where like you can have enemy units deal damage to your arenas to essentially like destroy your settlements and stuff that could be providing your units with buffs and things. They can be targeted directly, they can be destroyed, except for like special exceptions, of course. But that's kind of how that works. So you, as well as if you are out of space, if you have all four slots filled up and you want to play a new one, you can just replace one of them. Doesn't really matter where, you can just replace it. Um, And then, yeah, the last kind of card is resource card. Again, works similar to lands in Magic the Gathering. Now, I don't want my game to just be Magic but different. I mean, the whole grid system should... It changes the entire game, essentially, as well as I have a lot of other changes. Lots of other influences. One type of arena card I have is I want to introduce trap cards, because I think that that's fun. That's something that you don't really see in Magic. You see more in Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't know much about Yu-Gi-Oh! But I think just the idea of having like a certain thing happens and then you have an effect happen because that thing happened. Kind of like if your opponent draws like too many cards, maybe you deal a bunch of damage to their base or something like that. This whole page is assets that I have been working on. Over here is a lot of different two-color combinations. So in my game, there are 10 total colors, as well as 3 extra kind of badge things, and I'll go over everything. So the 10 main colors are red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, pink, white, and black. Wait, no, that's only 9, right? I don't even know my own game. I'm stupid. I'm stupid. I forgot the number. Anyways, every single color represents a mastery of one of the mechanics in the game. So red is the mastery of death. Think Yu-Gi-Oh! Think magic, graveyard. After things have left the battlefield, you can manipulate that. You get bonuses based on that. Mastery of arena. Orange has a lot of synergy with the cards you put in your sidelines. That's a specific mechanic of the game. That's what orange kind of specializes in. If we go on to yellow, mastery of unit, this is lots of like units working together. Like if you have more of them, then they all buff each other up as well. Like less focus on other aspects of the game, more focus on just getting your guys out and just fighting with them. Green is a mastery of resource, so getting a lot of resources, playing your resource cards, having ways to create extra resources. Always being, I guess, kind of wealthy in that sense. Blue is the master of position. So this one I really like. So because you're fighting on a grid, you need to move your guys around the grid. Blue could have options to maybe move your guys multiple times in a turn, maybe to hinder enemies from moving, maybe just like a full-on teleport card. Some like things of that nature, just to get yourself into a good position. What else? What is after blue? Master of event. Purple has lots of synergy with the event cards. Of course, yellow was the mastery of unit. Purple is the mastery of event. Orange is the mastery of arena. Green is the mastery of resource. All 4 of the main card types are their own kind of like major mechanic of the game, so they have their own mastery of them. Pink is mastery of cards, so lots of card draw, maybe making your opponents discard cards, always having a card advantage. That's what pink likes to do best. White is the mastery of strength. Here's a good example. So this guy, he's a 2/2. This system is essentially the same as Magic. Kind of different with how the combat system works. But it's essentially, in my game, I call it might and vitality, where might is how much damage you can do, vitality is how much damage you can take. So the first 2 is your might, that's your damage. Your second 2 is your vitality. This guy, he's a 2/2. White, master of strength, that's where you have like larger units than your opponents. It's about overwhelming your opponents with big guys that are difficult to deal with and can, they hit hard, take a lot of hits. That's what white is good at. Black is mastery of range. So I want to go back to this grid system here on directly on the card that I talked about earlier. I'll explain this guy. Also, this is just Spider-Man Noir. I also don't own this artwork. Let me find it real quick. Alright, so this artwork is by Juan Ferreira. Again, I don't own this. If this guy sees this, sorry if I said your name wrong. And yeah, I don't own this artwork. All the artworks that I use are just for conceptual purposes. But I really like this Spider-Man Noir artwork by Juan. So I wanted to include it. And I made a card based on it, just because I thought it was cool. Sharpshooter Vigilante. So on the grid, this white space in the middle indicates where your unit is on the battlefield. This is representative of, yeah, just where they are. The orange represents just like a basic attack. So if you just want to, so this guy, Sharpshooter Vigilante, can attack the space directly in front of him as indicative of this grid. Now he also has 4 red spaces, which whenever there's a space that isn't white or orange, because those are just the 2 basic spaces, right, how you interact with the game, there will be a description on the card relative to that. So as you can see, this guy has crit, deal damage. If an enemy unit is damaged this way, they become actionless, which is essentially the way of making it so that they can't do anything until the enemy's turn, where they become actionable again. Whenever an actionless enemy unit is defeated, draw a card. So this guy, he is the colors pink and black. The pink, there's the card draw, and the black is, you can see that he can attack pretty far away from himself. Like, of course, it's all relative. You would have to see more cards to know that this is farther than usual, but being able to attack 2 spaces in front of you on a 4x4 grid, like if you have him in the enemy mid-ground, as I have labeled here, then you can also just attack their base from farther away. You don't need to be right up in front of the base. So that is what black is good at, having more range than your opponents. Alright, now for the special ones, there's Null, which is the Mastery of Nothing. This is just kind of like your generic color card. So like all of the test cards I have up here, they are the null color background. I do have some like random stuff here just to show where the icons go and how they're sized and everything. But excuse me. But this is just what the null color looks like. It's just the generic color. It can go with anything, never cost any specific resources, that kind of thing. Chroma is the opposite. It represents just every single color. It's similar to Null in the sense that it can fit into kind of like any deck. However, you'll need a special type of resource to play Chroma cards. Aside from like all the generic resources. Then there's Ascendant. So for those who are familiar with Commander in Magic, you have your Commander that you always have them available to play, and once you play them, like they are of the variety of legendary creature, you can only have one of them. I like that concept. I wanted to kind of work with it, see what I could do. So it's similar in the sense that you have just like your one Ascendant is what I'm calling it in my game. As well as the working title is Ascendage. It was the combinations of the word Ascend and Carnage, although it kind of just reads as ASCENDAGE, but both ways of seeing it I like, so. That's the working title for the game. As well as Ascendants are, yeah, they're the kind of big creature that your deck kind of plays around. As well as, of course, you can only have one of them. I like that concept, so I wanted to use it. I hope I'm not infringing on anything. If I am, I'm willing to change everything. If an executive sees this in the future and wants to sue me, please don't. I'd honestly rather work with you than be against you. But anyways, that's what I have. I like that concept, so I wanted to incorporate it. Over here, I have all of the icons. So for costs and stuff, I have an X, Y, and Z, because if there's like multiple, I wanted it to be more open on kind of random stuff that you could do. That I'm horrible at explaining this. I'm probably going to remake this video in the future, but for now, I just need to practice and kind of go from there. It's about making it perfect later, right? It's about getting something. Also, should I center my camera more? I feel like if I do that, whatever. I'm looking too much into things. I haven't used OBS much. Anyways, here are all my icons. These are for the resource costs. You can see there's all the generic ones where it's just one color of anything. X, Y, and Z. If you could have a card that's like you can pay an X and a Y, and then you can do an ability based on Y X times, kind like something like that. As well as Z, just to have as many possibilities for design space as possible. That's another thing I wanted for my game, was I wanted as much design space. I want it to be there's like a million different things that you can potentially design. Of course, starting it off simple, as with any TCG, and then kind of going into more complex things and mechanics over the game's lifespan. Eventually finding like a solid footing to work with. This column, all of the colored ones here, are the kind of special resources that you have to pay with based on the color of your cards and all of that. So the special resources, they're not like, I mean, you could just say red, orange, yellow, but red, orange, yellow more pertains to the kind of color identity of your card and less of the resources. They're separate concepts. The resources, I wanted, because it's a tactical game, like a tactical like battle game, like a battlefield, I wanted the resources to be more kind of like what would like a tactical general or somebody, I guess, what resources would they be focused on in a battle kind of thing. So just starting from the top, the first resource, the red one, is intel, the intelligence, what you like what you know. Maybe intel could be, if you're thinking like a battle sense, it could be like you know information about the enemy, that kind of concept. Orange is material, just how much materials do you have? Do you have a lot of metal to work with? That kind of logic thinking. Yellow is energy, again, just like power. What kind of power can you produce? Can you make a giant laser beam cannon, or do you not have enough energy to do that kind of thing? Green is capital. So think like assets that you would have at your disposal. It's a more kind of generic term for capital. Doesn't necessarily mean money, but it largely means money. If you have more money, you can get more units, for example. You can hire more people to fight for you, kind of thing. Blue, this one is probably my favorite one, because I don't know any other, I guess, or any other trading card games especially, but at many other games in general that have time as like a physical resource. Not physical, because of course time isn't physical, but you know what I mean, as like a resource that you can possess. If you have more time to prepare than your opponents, then that can give you an advantage. That's the logic behind time. This one is just for fun because it's also a fantasy setting. Purple is mana. How much magic potential that you have. It's more of a word for potential, but mana is more fun than the word potential. So I like mana more. Purple just means mana. What kind of like mystical potential influence do you have over things? This one is the special one. This one, I honestly don't have a name for it yet. It's the icon that you need to play chroma cards, essentially. There will be, it's kind of like a separate game in the game, in a sense, of where there are certain tasks that you have to complete, with maybe like your arena cards or like combos that you have to do to get this resource. This resource can be used for any of the generic resources, or it can be used specifically to play chroma cards, which will be kind of like more generally or like generically powerful cards because of their extra effort that you need to get them out. Yeah, we went over all the colors. This is the rarity system that I have, also as a similar kind of badge, just for visual coherence, as like you can see here. The way that I have it is it goes common, uncommon, rare, ultra, and then symbolic. Why? One, because I want the rarity system to have distinctly different words than I guess the majority of games, except for common, uncommon, rare. I wanted the special rarities to be different names. Common, uncommon, rare, it's kind of like, you see that in every single game. It's an easy way to distinguish a rarity. They're common words, I guess, is a good way to put them. They're common words, everybody recognizes them. But then the special rarities, a bit less so, more unique to the game. So, ultra, again, just high rarity. Symbolic, it's a cool word. I mean, you can't tell me that symbolic isn't a cool word. Like, if you have a unit on the board that's like the symbol of, I don't, like a warrior's spirit kind of thing, that's where you would use symbolic. If it's like, this is the card to represent that. This one is supposed to be pretty rare, maybe like one or two per like set of cards kind of thing. Like the big cards. Not necessarily to have them mechanically broken, because like I don't want the rarities, like you can I like when rarities more offer, as you get higher rarities, unique mechanics instead of power creep. I don't like when a more rare card is just straight up better than like a common card, for example. I want them to be about the same. The only difference I want to be is mechanics. How unique is the card? So like if you have your commons, they're kind of just going directly with what the color identity says that they should be. Uncommons, maybe a little bit less so, maybe a little bit of mixing, maybe a little bit of uniqueness. Rare, okay, can have a new idea, but there's other cards that still have it. Ultra is where you can kind of start getting into like unique ideas. And then symbolic would be like an ability that maybe doesn't exist on any other card kind of thing. That's why I want it to be that kind of rarity. And again, not in a power creep way. I don't like power creep. Power creep is bad. I like mechanics more. I mean, of course, you need a little bit of power creep, unfortunately, but that's also just as games evolve and you get more, I guess, in tune with how the mechanics of the game work. You need to flesh things out to keep players interested. That kind of thing. But that's what I want for symbolic. I want to go over to this guy. I'm kind of going all over the place. I don't really know what order I want to present things in, but I'm just going to start with this guy. Also, this symbol is different now. I haven't fallen on an exact symbol for Intel. I like the lambda. I mean, lambda is pretty sick. It also reminds me of like Half-Life and stuff. As well as capital. This is the generic symbol for currency, so I thought that was pretty fitting. All of these are like actual like text symbols, like Unicode and that kind of stuff. Except for this one. This one is not. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, this is a different symbol. Anyways, sharpshooter vigilante. He's a unit. He's an agent. He's a soldier. I want to go more into the kind of design of the cards. And of course, like this is like a I'm one guy. This is like a early version. There can still be a lot more space for excuse me, for like adding like creative borders and stuff like that. I'm not trying to limit any of that. It looks generic right now, I know, but this is what I have as one person, as a one-man team who's also busy and has other stuff to do in life. Sharpshooter Vigilante. The outer rim of the border is relative, as well as the borders around here. You can see they're all kind of silvery. They fade from like black to white to like a cyan almost. Those borders are indicative of the rarity of the card. The color of the card indicates the pretty much everything else. So you can see this whole area right here. It's a solid block color that fades from black. It's more of a dark gray, but of course if you just had it pitch black, that would look... The border needs to be distinguishable from the card, kind of thing. Is it fades from black to a pink at the top. For all of the other border elements, you can see it starts with black at the top, then it goes to pink, and then the black, but the hex code of black, as that's the same as like down here kind of thing. Same with this border here. You can see it starts like pitch black at the top, goes to pink, goes to the black as defined by the symbol. Yeah, same here. Black, pink, gray, black, pink, black. This one as well, although the top half of it is covered. Like if I brought this down, you could see it's like that. However, I still kind of want to keep it how it is. Oh yeah, again, I designed everything in Canva, which I know is a limited design space. It was more for a reason of kind of getting a concept out as fast as possible, kind of thing. Like again, I don't have the most amount of time, but this is something I'm passionate about, something I want to work on. This is what I was able to come up with. Again, like things can be optimized and worked on later, but I was able to get a good enough groundwork. Like I think this visually stands on its own. I believe that. I believe that. But yeah, that's how all the borders work. This card, the first color, you can kind of think of as like the primary color. That's what indicates the color behind the bar back here at the top, which is also why there are so many combinations. There isn't just one unique combination for each pair of two colors. Each pair of two colors has two separate ways it can be, with one of the colors at the top, one at the bottom. So like here, there's red with all the other colors, orange with all of them, and so on and so forth, just to add visual variety and again some more uniqueness to certain cards. One thing that I like about trading card games is the actual like artwork implemented into the card, as well as this leaves a lot of ways that you can implement different kind of colors in the artwork and have them also indicative on the border. One limitation that I see in games like Magic the Gathering, where there's only so many colors for the borders, is that like if you want your creature or somebody to be purple, for example, and you want the border to match, I mean, like there's black borders that have purple accents. You can do that, but there isn't like a dedicated like a lavender or something, right, for the border. which you could use like this background for, or if you want something more grim, you can use the black and purple, as well as I can play into the cards, like physical, not physical, their design space, the mechanics that they operate in, lots of stuff like that. Here's the other black and purple, of course, lots of stuff like that. So yeah, this one has the purple on the top. This one has the black on the top. And I have to put white text here instead of black text because, like, here I have black text, but of course black on black you wouldn't be able to read it. What else? What else do I got? I'll go over the redesign. I like the original concept. I do like it. I don't like how clunky it is. I don't like, because the main thing that I went with it was I had the grid space off to the side here, but because of that, I wanted everything else, the other elements, to kind of match the height of that. So like this whole section here, like I like how it looks, don't get me wrong. This looks cool, the kind of like jagged, the parallelogram. This little color space here, like I could extend this, but then it looks way too chunky. These spaces are pretty big. Like there's a whole gap here. This section is big. It's not space efficient. And one thing that I realized after I made this version of the cards is that I wanted, oh, as well as if I want more colors or something, then you have to slide that out. Like, what if I had to slide this out all the way over here? Then there's no space for this. What? I gotta do that? Like, that looks weird. I mean, I guess it doesn't actually look that weird. But I still, I don't, it wasn't sitting right with me, the design. And I realized that I wanted there to be as much space as possible for the artwork to shine. Like here, I've used two artworks that I don't own, but I care about, like, artist representation, real art, not AI shit, not any of that. Actual, like, art from humans that, like, conveys emotion. I wanted there to be as big of a canvas as possible for that artwork on every single card. I don't want some cards to be like, oh, it's like half of the card and then there's like the full border version. No, I want every single card to be a art piece in and of itself, which you do see in other card games. It's not that they aren't that. I just like the actual, like, center, the main artwork of the card. I want it to be as large as possible on every single card, which is why I went for the design of having every single card just kind of have this giant space in the middle for the art. And the text, it's overlaid on top. If I get feedback that some people maybe don't like this version and maybe like a version where there's an easier to read text box, then I can make an alternate version of that. But it would still try and maximize the space on the actual card for the artwork. But for now, like, I think this is more than readable enough. I have a gradient here. You can see I can change it to make it a bit more readable. What else do I have? What else do I have? You can see I redid all of the icons. These were some of the old ones that I had. I didn't, as well as the old rarities, I didn't like how they were both generic but also visually cluttered at the same time. So I wanted the more sleek design that I have now. In terms of the symbols on the colors, some of them are kind of random. I might change them around, but I guess I can go over that now because it has my attention caught and I don't know what else to talk about. Red, it's the Master of Death, so it has the shape of a coffin, I guess, which you could also maybe look at it like an evil eye kind of thing, where it's like the black is like a vertical pupil. You could also see it as like an upside down blood drop or something like that. But the main shape was of like a coffin. Um, the Master of Arena, I guess I kind of wanted it to look like a tool of sorts. This shape is probably the most random out of the bunch. Um, I don't know. I like how it looks visually, so I didn't change it. But it doesn't really represent anything. Or really look like anything. But I feel, but it does its job as being visually distinct. However, this can be open to change in the future. I'm not opposed to that. I just liked how it looked. Um, for the Master of Units, the star, it's kind of like the units are the star of the show. That was kind of the idea I had. I wanted to incorporate just like a regular star somewhere. Excuse me. In the design for this game. And I feel like for units, like especially if you're teaching a new player to the game, I feel like teaching them with like a deck of yellow cards would be like the best way to do it, kind of thing. Just start basic with the units, never start the show, that kind of thing. Green is the Master of Resource. This is just supposed to kind of look like maybe like a house or like a hut of some sort. Like a building, kind of building up your I'm so bad at this, right? I don't know. Building up your. I'm trying to find the word. I'm just gonna pause until I can think of the word. I'm getting frustrated. Okay, you can think of it as like building up like your manufacturing processes, your yeah, building up your resources essentially. It looks like a building. That's kind of what the design was. Master of Position. This is supposed to look both kind of like an arrow and also like a plane or something. Because like if if you're flying in a plane, you're flying over everybody. You can go wherever you want. That was kind of the idea. Um, as well as the kind of point I feel like symbolizes like speed pretty well. Like just like go to where you need to go kind of thing. Um, Master of Events. I made it look like a potion. Looks like a potion bottle. It's the one with like magic and stuff. Like when you need, there's like a special event that can happen in a dire situation that can save you. That kind of thing. So I want it to look like a potion. Master of Cards. It's pink, so it kind of looks like a heart, but it's also two parallelograms to kind of look like if you have two cards in your hand and you kind of put them sideways. That's what this is supposed to look like. Master of Strength. It's supposed to look like a shield of some sort. I didn't want to just do like a generic shield shape. I'm not completely sure if I'm super happy with this, so I might change it, but that was the idea behind it. Black is the Master of Range, so I wanted it to look kind of like a crosshair of sorts. And this is probably honestly one of my favorite ones. I like how the angles of it look. I think it looks cool. Null is generic and boring. Not generic and boring, it's just generic. So it just has a simple like pill shape oval, that kind of thing. Chromatic is like the special, it represents everything, so I want it to look like a star, not the shape of star, but like if you look up in the sky and you see a star, that kind of thing. That's what this shape is supposed to represent. Ascendant, this is just supposed to look special. It's supposed to be the most visually distinct icon, which I believe I achieved. I think that the color combination is unique and it stands out well. The shape strikes as being kind of an extra importance as opposed to the other symbols. That was the main idea. It's just comprised of a diamond in the middle and then two triangles put on equal angles to kind of form a cross. but I really like how the shape turned out. For the rarities, it just kind of gets more complex until it gets to a circle. I like math. Circles are very prevalent in math. Anything sine and cos is technically a circle. Yeah, I like circles, and I wanted the most rare card to just be a circle. No reason other than that. No reason other than that. I just like them. What else can I talk about before I work on more? I can talk about this. I can go back to the resources. And, okay, because this is my first video describing all of this. This is probably going to get 0 views. So it doesn't really matter anyways. But I'm going to keep it up. I don't know why. But I'll make better videos in the future going more in depth of every single kind of color and mechanic. And the resources, and every single aspect will have its own unique video one day, and it'll be more like properly produced and all that, and so just me rambling on Canva looking like an idiot. But anyways, every single material. So what some of you might have noticed is that, okay, there's like 6 separate materials, there's 9 separate colors. How does that all kind of work together? So this is how I have it working out. Every single material can be used for 3 separate colors. Every single color itself utilizes 2 separate materials. The thought process behind that is, if you're in a battle, you can't spend all of your resources on energy. Like, maybe you need, for orange for instance, you need for your big laser gun, you need energy and material. You need the power for the big laser gun, and you need the stuff to actually make the laser gun. So orange uses material and energy. That was kind of the thought process. You can't just put all your eggs in one basket for resources. It's more complex than that. So I think that the 2 was a good middle ground, as well as if you're making like an all blue deck, for example, then there's already 2 different resources that you have to manage, which I think adds a more interesting flair onto the gameplay. Anyways, or if you really want, you could just make a 3-color deck and just use Intel. Just use the 3 colors. So Intel has pink for Master of Card Draw, blue for Master Position, black for Master of Range. The thought process behind that: Intel, you're getting more information, you can have more cards, more options available. That's how pink fits in. Blue is Master Positioning. If you have more intel, then you can position better than your opponents. That's the thought process there. Black, again, range. If you have intel on, for example, where your opponents are, then, and maybe they don't have intel on where you are, then you have like a range advantage. You can attack from range, that kind of thing. Material, master, resources. I'm not going to go into depth for all of these. I mean, you can also just see them. As well as I might change some of the orders of this, because like the master of, or mastery of death is energy and mana, which on one hand I think is pretty cool, but on another hand I don't know if it super fits. Like, I would kind of like time, because like with time you can think like, oh, everything eventually dies over time, that kind of thing. So it could fit into play there. But of course, if you swap one thing, you have to swap another thing. I think it works. I'm not going to go over everything. I'll probably have a separate video for all of the combinations. But another easy way to, maybe like an easy way to start playing the game would just be capital. It's money. You have resources for money. With money you can buy units, and with money you can send airstrikes. That's not a good thing. But like one idea I had for an event card. You can also see that even on the event and arena cards, they have their own kind of spaces. Is that like here, so the blue icon represents like a multi-hit, so hits everything within that range. It could just do damage to, oh, and of course, the white is your target space. Could deal damage to everything in range. Like a yeah. Sorry, just talking about that has me thinking about everything that's happening in the world and how I hate it. But if it's a game for things that don't matter, it's different. But anyways, sidetracked. What else can I talk about? I think that's honestly probably everything in terms of what I have for the finalized version. I say finalized, like a beta version or whatever, an alpha version that comes first. I could go over some of the old designs. This is what I had for the old card back. Of course, this is going to need to be remade, but I do also have some other ideas for card backs. Like, okay, one idea I had, right? For card games like Magic, like Yu-Gi-Oh, like all the others, you play with your cards in sleeves anyways. The back of the card doesn't really matter, as well as you can have things like flip cards and stuff like that. So you need the sleeves anyways to obscure like that kind of thing. So I was thinking the backs of the cards could be used for like lore and flavor text reasons. Because if I'm using so much of the space to just be pretty much all for the artwork, right? I want it to all be for the artwork. I think the art is cool. I always have, always will. I want all the space to be for the artwork. On the back of the card, I could just have lore of the card. I could have definitions for certain mechanics. Um, that kind of thing. There could be room for flip cards as well, in which case there would just be no lore or anything on the back, but that's fine. That's not every single card. Think of the cards where it's just the one side and the back is just going to be like a generic image anyways. That's on every single other card. I would rather have that be for lore reasons, honestly. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I would do it. I don't know how I would present it, but that's what I would want it to be. Because I do want to have a story of some sort. I'm a one-man team right now. I don't got no story. I'm gonna be honest. I like Warhammer, so something kind of grimdark would be cool. Um, I say I like Warhammer, but I don't have any figurines painted or anything. I don't got money for that right now. That's like a future thought. I'm like, okay, I want to have a Warhammer army one day, and I want to play Warhammer 40K, but I don't got none of that yet. But I think that the stories and stuff behind it is all cool. Um, so I'd be interested in having a story kind of based on that, like loosely based, of course, not like oh we're the year 30K instead of 40K. Like I don't like, you know what I mean. Same kind of like emotional setting, I guess. I think would be cool, as well as fitting for what the actual gameplay is indicative of. Excuse me. Oh, there we go. This I haven't changed. Well, actually, I have changed. I've swapped orange and white. Red is crit. Black is no action. Green is support, so this is something that could only target your allies. This is a range, so this one is yellow is more for like if there is an enemy ally in range, then you can perform X action, kind of thing. Instead of performing an action directly on the enemy in range. Yeah, AoE for blue, and then purple and pink are for if you want to target the entire row or the entire column. Which I think is honestly probably every single way to divvy it up. I didn't make any more than this. Maybe in the future, if I have a reason to make a new kind of range and targeting option, I will. But I don't really see a need to right now. I have a basic turn phases here. Again, like this is my old stuff. I haven't refined much of it. It was just kind of to have something down so that there's a way to play the game. Here are some of the old like border designs, which I do like, as well as here you can see like there's some images overlaid to add some extra flair to the backgrounds, which I could add to the new design as well, and I probably will. Here's some of the old icons, the old costs. Like I didn't like that capital was just a money symbol. I thought that was kind of lame. I thought that like, because this is the Canadian dollar symbol. This doesn't even pertain to the rest of the world. So, I don't know. What's the point? So I used the generic currency symbol. I thought that was better. What else? What else? Here are some cards that I have in the redesigned state, just to, like, for visual flair, guessing. This is if you have a card that's 3 or more colors. Oh, these have the old symbols. Whatever. If you have a card that's 3 or more colors, then the border color is just indicative of what rarity it is, except that this rarity doesn't even match. This is all so messy and horrible. You can see I have Tom Bombadil to reference size, because I like the physical size of Magic cards. Because I think Yu-Gi-Oh cards are sized differently, right? Let's look up like Magic card. What was it? Aspect ratio. 2.5 by 3.5. What's Yu-Gi-Oh card aspect ratio? Oh, I spelled it wrong. I'm so stupid. Slightly different. Slightly different. More or less the same. But I liked Magic's aspect ratio, so I wanted to mimic that. Again, maybe that's taking too much inspiration and I'm going to get sued into oblivion. I hope not. Hasbro, please don't murder me. I can go through more of the old designs. I have a bunch of cards here. Originally I called them spell cards instead, but I want it to be distinct, so I changed the name to event. I've changed a lot of stuff. If you want to pause and read anything for certain mechanic ideas, now everything's there. I think I remember liking this one. Bind Mark of the Fallen to target enemy unit. Mark bound unit. When bound unit is defeated, you draw 2 cards and -5 to enemy base vitality. This I would remake. I would remake this. I think this is cool. I think this is cool. Again, I don't own any of these artworks. I just didn't want to use like AI slop, even though I think some of these might be. Like this one definitely is. Look at that shit. You can just tell. Maybe it's not. Like I feel like it is. Like this shadow doesn't really match him. Then there's an extra shadow here, but there's nothing. So it just feels like AI. You know what I mean? Maybe not. I'm honestly just rambling at this point. Oh, you know what? This I actually want to talk about. The resource cards. these images, I think half of them are AI. I don't like that that's the case. It's just for conceptual reasons. It's either that or I don't own the artwork, so it's all bad. I'm sorry. Um, oh yeah, I don't like this old border style. I don't like this tiny little text box space. I don't like it. But yeah, capital, you would have a bank. An agency would be for intel. Facility would be for time. A generator would be for power. A factory would be for material. And a tower would be for mana. This is what I am kind of the most excited for in terms of thriving up the resource system. Because I think that there was more room for it, I guess. So this special symbol here is the old design of this guy. The like special symbol that you can use to play like chromatic cards or things like that. So if I go back over here, I wanted to have markets, which is essentially like if you go back to Magic, think color fixing cards. Cards that only exist to kind of like if you're missing a color, then in Magic, in my game, it would be a resource, of course. If you're missing a resource, then you can get a different resource, or like a generic resource that kind of applies to everything. So I wanted to add, I called them markets, which I thought was cool. So it's like you can pay 3, get 2 of anything, right? Like you're missing out on one, but in turn you're getting color fixing. Maybe this one's too powerful. I don't know. Of course, it'll have to be play tested. As well as I wanted it to be, because the markets themselves don't gain you any extra resources, that you can play them even if you played another resource. This I might change or add like some other kind of drawback, like maybe you can play it if you skip out on something next turn or things like that. Other drawbacks to get them out so you can have the color fixing right away. Because yeah, I kind of don't like that you can just play them out for free. I haven't made them in the new version yet because I want to change them, but things like this. Secretive dealer, pay 1, get 1. Alright, good rates, but -2 to your base vitality. Discard a card, you gain 1 and +2. Discarding a card is usually pretty bad, unless if you have a card that you know that you're never going to use based on the state of the game, in which case you can heal a little bit and gain an extra resource. Thriving marketplace. Just if you have another market, you can get an extra resource, or you can make another market actionable. What else? I'm losing steam here. As well as some resources specifically for the separate colors. Like workshop. I originally had like a robot theme going for orange. I'm probably gonna keep that honestly because I liked it. And maybe I'll go over some more of the old cards that I have designed in the future. For now, this is an hour-long recording, and I should probably call it quits here. Again, my name is Ethan. I am one person right now working on developing a trading card game. I'm hopeful for it. I think it has a lot of fun and unique mechanics. And I want to keep working on it. When I have more work done, I'll make some more videos and have systems finalized and all that. I have a lot to talk about. I have a lot more to talk about, but I'll leave it there right now. If you did watch, I don't know why, but maybe you believe in me. If you do, thank you. I appreciate that. What else? I think that's probably it. Thank you, and I'll be back with more ramblings sometime eventually. Okay, bye.